Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the Velocity 360 Node.js intro course where we're going to build a very simple website. It won't even be a full website, it'll just be a very simple Node application where people can sign up and log in and log out. And that's pretty much going to be it. This is not meant to be a full project. This is meant to be an intro project to illustrate how to run a node and get things up and running with a server, a database, an API, things like that. So you can consider this project, this tutorial, a prerequisite for the more advanced tutorials on the site, and so it'll be pretty basic for that reason. So there's only going to be a Node component. There's going to be no React integration to this, so it's really meant for just the backend introduction. So if you're looking for a React tutorial, go check out the site and you'll find plenty there. But this is more focused just on the back end. So let's get started. So first thing is we need to install a couple tools. Here is what we're going to need to run this tutorial. We're going to need Node.js, obviously. And you can find that on nodejs.org. Now you're better off downloading this one, not this one for now, because this one has some experimental features which might cause some weird bugs and things that you can't anticipate. But this is called the long-term stable release, the most stable version. So make sure you have that. We're also going to need these two tools. We'll install those in the tutorial, so don't worry about that. And then you're going to need MongoDB. to run the local database. Now sometimes people have a problem installing MongoDB. So I find, especially on Macs, I find that sometimes the installation can get a little screwy. So I find that this usually does the trick. If you just copy these commands literally line by line, I find that normally does the trick as far as installing MongoDB is concerned. So hopefully you won't have any problems, but if you do, give this a shot, and hopefully that'll take care of it. I'm going to put this file inside the tutorial assets. So if you go to the website www.velocity360.com, you will be able to you'll be able to download this file, and then you can just copy these commands line by line. So you should be good to go for that. Okay, so let's get started. So what we're going to do is we're going to create an Express project. Express is a Node framework, and then we're going to set up an API, a very simple API, which will basically take care of profile management. So this project is going to be basically just a profile registration / login project, and then that's it, because most projects require that. So let's get started. Okay, so open up your terminal, cd to your workspace area. I'm just going to do it on the desktop. First thing we want to do is install Express Generator if you don't already have it. So go ahead and do that. It's going to ask you for a password, and insert your password and let it run. And then you're going to want to install NodeMon. The reason I'm not doing this is because I already did it, so there's no need for me to do it again. But this is how I would do it if I'm starting from scratch. You want to check your version. So this is the Node version I'm running, the LTS. Here's the NPM version I'm running. NodeMon, I think it's version. Okay, here's the nodemon I'm running, and Mongo, I think it's like that. Okay, so make sure when you check your versions, you get a response, a numerical response like I'm getting on all of these. That means everything you need has been properly installed. Okay, so let's finally get started. So let's create an Express project, and we're going to call it profile sign up, and then Hogan. So here we're telling Express that we want to use the Hogan templating engine. Of course, you gotta spell Express right, otherwise none of this is going to work. So, okay, and it scaffolds all this up for you. You want to cd into the project, and then run npm install, which is going to install a series of dependencies. I'm having a bad spelling day, so try again. And basically it's downloading a series of modules right now that are going to be dependencies for the project. And then after that's done, we should be good to go. So here's the project we just created. And right off the bat, it gives you a working web server project. So if I type nodemon, I'm starting the server locally. And then in doing so, I should be able to navigate on our browser to localhost 3000 and see the web project that I just made. So that means everything worked. We're good to go. And turn off your server by doing Control-C. And let's get started with the programming. So open up the project in your text editor. So either Sublime or Atom or whatever you like to use. And right off the bat, the Express generator gives you a lot of code, or what seems like a lot. It's not really that much, but it looks like a lot if you're new to this. So we should step through all of this. So right now, the first thing to look at is the package.json. And this is sort of your project manifest. This is where your dependencies are listed. So we want to add more to this, as well as your what's called your scripts, your start script, your build script, your testing script, things of that sort. And this is where you list all those things. So your package.json is kind of like a table of contents where it just shows all the stuff that's being used in your project. The next thing to look at is the app.js. So here, this is scaffolded by the Express generator, so obviously we didn't write this, but the Express generator just automatically generated this to get your project up and running right away. So one thing I'm going to do right away is get rid of those semicolons. You don't have to do this. This is just a personal pet peeve of mine. Okay, so if you have any programming experience, a lot of this may seem intuitive. You can just sort of piece through it. These are your imports. These are where you import the dependencies listed from here. These are what's called your routes. So if you have any web development experience, you already know what's going on here. If not, I'll explain these as we use them. Here's where you create the Express project. Here's some config stuff where we define the static assets directory, templating engine. This is called middleware. This is a sort of a node-specific concept. It's basically configuring what tools to use and how, and that's really what matters for now. There's more to it, but for now, that's what matters. Here's more route stuff, when to use certain routes, and the rest here is mostly error handling, how to deal with errors. So although it looks like a lot, it's really not that much, and we will be adding to this soon. If you look at the routes folder, so here are the two routes they give you right off the box. If you look at the routes folder, the index route is the one that serves the home page. So the home page is what we were just looking at. So if you go back to your terminal and run nodemon, run the server, and reload the home page, what we're looking at here is generated by this code here. If you look closely, let me just create some space here. If you look closely, you'll see that this is a render. This render command is saying render the index. And don't worry about this for now. But what this is saying is that render the index means grab the index HJS, or really it's just HTML. Grab the index file and render this on the home page. So you see where it says welcome to title, welcome to Express, and then the title here, and Express here. So if I change this to Velocity 360, these title placeholders will be updated in the code, in the render, as you can see there. And that's determined by this title key right here. So if I change that to header, this won't work anymore. But what I can do is go to the actual template and change these to header. And then we're back in business. Okay, so quick Node Hogan templating tutorial. Pretty simple stuff. I'm sure you can figure out the rest from here. If I add a visitor, then I can take that and then add it to the template. Okay, good. So that's how that works. That's how the Hogan templating engine works. It's a pretty conventional templating style. You see this in a lot of other frameworks and libraries like Angular, yeah, some in Ruby on Rails. Excuse me, these names escape me for now, but it's a pretty standard conventional templating system syntax. So this is the index route, and then they give you another route called users, which is basically empty. I'm just cleaning up a little bit. So the question is, how do I get to this route? So if you go back to your app.js, you'll see that the users route is imported in line 9, but if you go down to line 26, it's telling you that it's invoked according to this path right here. So if I do users/users, you see how this path on line 26/users is what I'm referencing right here, /users, that's called the path. Then I will see the user's route. And that's this right here, respond with a resource. Respond with a resource. So line 26 is what on the app.js is what determines how to invoke certain routes. And you can add as many routes as you want. So what we're going to do is add a new route, our own route. So cd to the routes, excuse me, cd to the routes directory and create a new route called API.js. And here it is right here. And let's set up a whole new route. Now we need the Express library, of course. And we need the router object from Express. That's what makes all this possible. And then we're going to create a route handler for a GET request. And every route takes a function completion handler, which takes a request, a response, and a next object. And then last but not least, okay, so the request is what it sounds like. It's the incoming request. It's the, whenever I do this, I'm making a request to the server. It's off right now, but I'm making a request. And this request comes with a series of information that we can use inside the handler, inside here, to generate a response which is unique to the request. And here's a response, which is the output. What we get here is the response. So what we want to do is generate a response right now, And don't worry about the JSON yet, but let's say confirmation. Oh, let's go with success here. Okay, so here I'm just automatically responding with what's called a JSON object, basically a data object with the confirmation key of success and a message of hello. Very simple. And that's based on this response object right here. So this is a complete route, so we can hook it up right now. So if we go back to the app.js, let's get rid of the user's route because I don't want to use it. Let's convert that to API. So here we are importing the API file that I just wrote, and then let's invoke it on line 26. Oh, excuse me, that was the path. So on line 9, let's import the API. So here I'm importing it on line 9, and on line 26, setting the path which will invoke the route. So it's going to simply run this code right here. So if I do /users, I'm going to get an error message because I just removed it. This route no longer exists in the project. I just removed it. However, we do have an API route, which gives us the confirmation. Whoa, that's way too big. Which gives us the confirmation success and the hello message that we wrote right here. By the way, I'm using a Chrome plugin that formats your JSON responses into a more visually, organized way. You might be looking at this. If you see this, that's fine. That means it worked. But what I'm doing right now is using a Chrome plugin, JSON formatter. Which is this one right here. So if you want your JSON responses to look like mine, just go ahead and install that, and it makes life a little bit easier when you're parsing through JSON. So I recommend it. Okay, so that's it for now. So we have our API route connected. So what's important to understand is that the purpose of this route is to serve data from the database, as well as update the database. So if I want to find a profile's information, I can do that through an API request. If I want to add a new profile, I want to do that through an API request. And this API handler is what's going to manage most of that interaction. So if I want to get information about a profile or profiles, I would do that through a request to this route, and that would be called a get request or a read, reading data. If I want to create a profile, I would do that through a different kind of request to this route, to the API route, and that's called the create. So we're talking about reading and creating. There's also updating and deleting, which would also be managed through this API route. And those are the 4 major operations that an API should manage, an API route should manage. And I'm describing what's called a REST API. REST, like taking a rest. It's an acronym for representational state transfer, which is basically an architecture that's by far the industry standard today in terms of managing your resources, your assets, your resources in the database via the 4 major operations: CRUD, create, read, update, delete. And those are called the CRUD operations. So we're basically setting up the CRUD operations right now in an API. So in the next video, what we need to do is establish the resources, or what's called the models, in a database system. So we need to set up a series of models in the backend for the API to manage. Otherwise, the API isn't really managing anything. It's kind of pointless. So in the next video, we want to set up a new model for profile, which will be managed by the API. But before I wrap up this video, let's just get rid of this one last file, because we're not gonna use the user's route ever. So let's just get rid of this. Oh, damn it. And make sure that didn't break anything. Okay, cool. Okay, sounds good. So that's it for video 1. Thanks for tuning in. If you want to catch the entire series, check out velocity360.io, where I'm putting up new tutorials a couple times a week. So if you scroll down here, you'll find all the tutorials currently on the site. Some of these are free, some of these they range from $15 to $50, depending on how much stuff I put in there. And this tutorial will be up probably in a couple days. So check back in for that. Thanks for watching.